Donald Trump is way ahead when it comes to the issues. It's not even close. The border, economy, foreign policy, like a slam dunk. And you see it in all the polls. But sentiment and voting are two entirely different things. And the sentiment may be way on Trump's side about where we are in our country, you're better off 4 years ago, et cetera. Like, we all get that. But what about the executing the task at hand, right? We can't get cocky. All right? As Biden gets frailer and more senile, and the issues that Trump is laser focused on become even worse. The border, crime, inflation, right? It's going to get worse over the next few months. Don't get cocky. It's all about who votes, and then it's all about who counts the votes. But let me just exaggerate just to make this point, right? Sentiment is different than voting. So let's say the support for Trump is 80-20. Okay, every poll, Trump's up 80-20. Right? It's huge, it's a landslide, it's unbelievable. But if only Biden's 20% of supporters vote, then Biden wins 100% of the vote. Right? So like, sentiment's great, but it matters who votes, and then what really matters is who counts the votes. So those are mostly the two things we're going to address today. It's a three-part process, if you will. The first is to win the hearts and minds. Pretty much check done. You can't stop that. You can't stop on that effort, but like, we're way ahead there. The second thing is you got to get people to use their bodies to go and vote. They have to physically actually do it. And then you have to count the votes accurately. Let's just take a second on the winning in hearts and minds, right? Trump's never been more popular in all the years he's been running for office or president, right? Especially among young people. Check this out. This is a pretty recent Harvard poll. 18 to 24-year-olds. 64% approve of Trump's time in the White House. And as you heard right there, Donald Trump has a higher approval rating among 18 to 24-year-olds than any other demographic. Like, let that one sink in. I had to read that headline like 10 times before that made any sense. There is no age group that more supports Donald Trump than 18 to 24-year-olds. What? 55-year-olds? It's like that age bracket, 45 to 55. That's 60% approval of Trump. The younger age groups in between, it's like 58% support. It's the youngest voters who love Trump the most. Isn't that amazing? Because that's obviously the opposite of the narrative. The narrative is always that young people support Democrats. The youngest people support Trump the most out of any other demographic group. That's crazy. Even among like 70-year-olds. Now, there are real, tangible reasons for this, housing costs, the economy, whatever. But also, don't forget the fun factor of Trump. Remember how much fun 2015 to 2016 was? It was awesome. And a lot of that fun is coming back. There's an example. This is an Instagram post that Trump put up at 1 a.m. one day.
Let's go!
That was a good putt.
Yeah, man, he knocked it in.
That was a good putt.
Let's bring the fun back. I think young people see that. Winning hearts and minds, that's number one. Number two, we got to get people to actually go and vote. And the third one, count the votes accurately. So Trump's crushing number one, but you can't get cocky because the left, I believe, has a massive advantage on number two and number three on that list you just saw there. And they're going to try everything. Right? We all know how wicked they can be. We know what liars they can be normally. We see it all the time. Never forget COVID. But now imagine not only that lying, but imagine being desperate. If Biden's losing in the polls by a lot in September and October, they're not just going to be wicked. They're going to be desperate. And these are some people that you don't want to see when they're desperate. This is why they take his bloodbath comment out of context and double down on it when it's obviously not true. This is why they freak out about democracy all the time, right? That's what desperate people do. Do we have a democracy montage, I think, as well, right? These are desperate people.
I make this sacred pledge to you. The defense, protection, and preservation of American democracy will remain, as it has been, the central cause of my presidency.
American democracy could end with the election of Donald Trump.
Iowa, apparently short for, I don't want to live in a democracy anymore. I don't want The man has he's declared open season on democracy.
Democracy, our freedoms are what's on the line.
Our democracy depends on you.
It really does, folks. That's no joke.
It's democracy. We should do a whole special on democracy, what it really means and all. It's ridiculous. So don't get cocky about polls or how it's obvious Trump's going to win. You can't get cocky. There's still ways to go, and anything could happen. I'm sorry, not anything could happen. Something will happen. Excuse me. It's not anything could happen. It's something will happen. Something will happen to change the game. You were alive during the Black Lives Matter riots. You think that they're done for good? You think all the people that engaged in rioting during Black Lives Matter, you think all those people are like, that wasn't my best. I'm never going to do that again. You think they're done now? They've grown up. They've matured so much. No, the left will do everything they can to make sure that Trump doesn't win. When they get desperate, it's going to be ugly. And they're going to use January 6th as a justification, by the way. All right, they'll say, well, if Trump supporters can subvert democracy with an insurrection on January 6th, then we can do this, whatever the this is. That's one of the main reasons why they keep harping on January 6th, even now, 4 years later, just to use it as justification for their own violence. That is certainly coming. It is coming. And they project all of their concerns. There was a now famous Washington Post editorial from Robert Kagan and comparing Trump to Nazi Germany. I think the headline was like a Trump dictatorship is, I think we have it here. Yeah. Increasingly inevitable. And he compared Trump to Nazi Germany, right? So the left constantly accusing Trump of being an authoritarian, when obviously, the authoritarian impulse is amongst progressives. That's like so super basic. They accuse Trump of being an authoritarian when Biden is canceling student debt on a whim, even though he knows that's unconstitutional and will be deemed unconstitutional, and forcing the COVID mandates and unilaterally opening the border and pushing charges against the leading political opponent to put him in jail for over 700 years, for instance, and wanting to pack the Supreme Court and hundreds of billions of dollars for wars. I mean, give me a break. Trump is a dictator. That is projection. Election denialism. Are you kidding me? Racism. The left says that conservatives are racist, and the left is as racist as they come. They call Larry Elder the blackface of white supremacy. They call Tim Scott and Uncle Tom. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. According to Joe Biden, are you kidding me? Affirmative action is racist by definition, and that's what the left supports. They make these accusations, and again, they have that impulse. Never forget COVID. So when they talk about insurrection and mass rioting, they're telling you what's up. They're telling you what's coming. So anyway, back to the topic here. So 3 things. Do we have the list again, guys? First one, don't get cocky. We got to win hearts and minds. Trump's not guaranteed to win. You got to get out there and still make the case. Second, get people to vote and vote early and prepare for what is coming. Third, count the votes, right? We need people in Cook County. That's Chicago. We need people in Wayne County. That's Detroit. If you live in one of these blue counties, I'm not kidding, you are one of the most important patriots that this country has right now. You are in a position to monitor the counting of votes the best that's within your ability. Can we overstate how important that is? We can have all the hearts and minds, we can get everyone out to vote, but if we're not watching who's counting the votes, none of that means squat. And this is an exciting moment right now with the new head of the Republican Party. We'll talk with Trump's spokesperson coming up in a minute who can speak to the new leadership within the RNC and how they're making this a priority. They're already suing like the Michigan Secretary of State about the voter rolls. And I was just talking to the Trump's endorsed Michigan Senate candidate, Mike Rogers. And he's like, oh, it's great. We have a massive unified front on this issue. We're already suing the state for the inflated voter rolls and all that, right? So there's a Trump in the RNC, and they're all about election integrity. And I would argue at this point for the RNC, this is their top priority, as it should be. The hearts and minds are great. People are more enthusiastic to vote for Trump than ever before, and they're not enthusiastic to vote for Biden, right? You can look at the Ohio primary, the Trump-endorsed candidate. On election morning, the polls were tied between Bernie Moreno and Mike Dolan, who's like the Rhino guy. So you got Bernie, who was the Trump-endorsed guy, and you got the Rhino, Mike Dolan. They were tied, 29.4, 29.5. That was the polling average. Bernie Moreno went on to win by 18. Okay, so the enthusiasm to vote for Trump and Trump-endorsed candidates is through the roof.